Hi there. You're watching Gardens and Graveyards. My name is Charisma, and today we're in the studio and we're going to talk about organization. It's kind of a cloudy, overcast day. It's early in the morning, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for us to talk about how to be organized in the garden and avoid overwhelm. Now, I've been gardening, well, kind of my whole life off and on, but seriously, for 12 years. I went to school in Oregon City at the Clackamas Community College, and I got an associate's degree in horticulture, which led me into a deep dive of gardening. And I've been on that journey ever since. And then I drug my husband along too, and now he has a great passion for gardening. Now that he's retired and we moved to the Oregon coast, we have really ramped up our garden. And in the last 5 years, we've been developing this garden and all of its different rooms and themes and, specific niches all over. But what I was finding is the organization that I had as a professional when I went out to other people's accounts and everything was sort of generalized, I didn't need as much, I had to be organized obviously, but I didn't need the level of an organization that I'm finding myself needing in this garden, in my personal garden. And maybe that's just me. Actually, I know it's me, but I don't think it's just me. I'm a list maker. I have piles of notes everywhere and lists everywhere, in my phones, in spiral binders, on the backs of envelopes. If you are around me at all, you know I'm making a list. So I find myself sometimes feeling really overwhelmed in the garden, where there's too many tasks, there's too many plants, there's too many spaces, there's not enough time, and I get overwhelmed, and it's hard for me to prioritize what I'm doing on what day and why and when and how and all those things. So I've developed a few different ways to help myself cope so that I can stay in the flow and the joy and the love of gardening. And I hope that this video helps some of you find any kind of tidbit that helps you, just let go of some of those things that you're holding on to in your brain. You could put it down on a piece of paper or one of these techniques, and that can help you just get back into the flow of living in the present moment in your gardens. So if you do find anything helpful in this video, please take a moment to like and subscribe, share this with someone who needs the help, and I would love for you to comment and tell me what tip really sparked something in your imagination and in your mind and helped you with your garden tasks as we come into summer. Or if you're in a different hemisphere, this is a really great time to get your organization all into order, because you have the time to organize everything and then begin gardening in spring and summer. But here where I'm at in Zone 9A on the Oregon coast, it is late May and we're ramping up into our full swing in the garden. And as I was updating on my systems, I thought, oh, I should share this with my audience because I think it might help some of you. So I'm here with a cup of green tea in one of my favorite cups. It says, bloom where you're planted. And I find that to be true on so many levels. But today, let's get into some of our fun organizations. I'm going to go into systems first, and then I will give you some physical actions. So the first thing that I suggest every gardener has is a gardener's journal. Now, I got this one on Amazon. There's many different types of garden journals, and you have to select the one that works best for you. I love this journal because it is 10 years. So each, I'll go to the section. So each page has 10, it's kind of washed out. Let's see. If I could get one with more writing on it, you can see it a little bit better. But there's just like a few lines per year, and it allows you to put the year, what the weather, well, first of all, it says the date, May 28th. And then it says the year, what the weather was like. You can circle a little weather caption. And then the high temps and the low temps. And this can help you really gauge what's happening in your garden from year to year. And then it gives you, I think there's 4 lines, and you can just say what you did in the garden that day, if you did anything. I am not as consistent as I like on that part of my journal. However, the part that I really love is they have these inventory pages, and I've got them marked with little tabs, colored tabs, so I can find them quick and easy. It also comes with a bookmark for your daily journaling. But the inventory is really great. It's divided up by annual, perennial, trees and shrubs, and vegetables, so that you can really, and the vegetable one is super awesome if you're a vegetable grower, because it lets you say how many you planted, where you got the seed or the seedling from, and how long did it take to germinate? How long did it take before you put them outside? How long did it take before harvest? That is really great information to have as a gardener. And in my perennial inventory one, it allows me to do when was the first flower? When did the first flower bloom? Or with the bulbs, that's really awesome. I can track when did I first see green growth, and when did it flower, and and how many is left, because with your bulbs, they start to peter out over time. Voles eat them, they disappear. There's just different things that happen underneath that ground that we don't see happening until our flowers are up, and then it's like, oh, where did they all go? Or why is there more? And so then every year I get to say, well, I planted 4 in the fall, there was 4 in the spring. The next year, the next spring, there was 12, or there was 1, and it helps me keep track of that kind of a thing. The other thing that this does, and there's also an inventory for your supplies, so tools and compost and soil, and you can keep track of how much it costs, where you purchased it, what the brand was, and this kind of helps you through the years to say, man, I only had to buy that thing one time 4 years ago. Where did I get it? Because I can't find it again. If you have it in your journal, then you'll be able to look that up. And then it also has little grids where you can create your designs for different areas of your garden, or layouts for your different garden. I do so much creation, and this is one of my favorite things to do in the garden, that I actually don't use this journal for that as much. I use graph paper to create my designs and layouts, to brainstorm how I want a new bed to look, how I want to revamp an existing bed, or just play around with different ideas. This is like one of my creative outlets, so I enjoy doing this, and I like to create designs for other people, so I don't obviously want that in my personal garden journal. So I have notepads with grid paper that works for me. And if it becomes a more permanent thing in my garden, I will just take it out of this notepad and stick it in the book, and it'll be there for me to look at in the future. The other thing that this garden journal does that most garden journals have are a month-to-month task There's the table of contents. Or schedule, I guess you can say. And it goes month by month what tasks you might look for in your garden. For example, June in this garden, it says mow weekly, fertilize, mulch beds, prune evergreens, dig up persistent lawn weeds, support tall perennials if needed. And you have to adjust this according to what you need. In my area, I prune my evergreens in March, not June. And see, I think I added some things. In June, I usually plant out my peppers, whereas in other areas, this garden planner might say that I plant them out in May. So it's not zone specific, this particular one. This is, I will put a link to the Amazon site for this garden journal if it's still available. But basically what you want to look for is something that is at least 5 years, up to 10 years is great, so that you can really keep track of what's happening in your garden. Another really fun thing to do with this journal is if you do leave your property, you can leave the journal with the new homeowner, and they have all the information about their, what's growing in their garden and the successes and failures of the past. I also, because I have so much going on in the garden and I really love these types of file folders, they're like these accordion folders. I have them divided by monthly tasks, and I have either lists handwritten, or I have sheets from like the extension office, or even from other garden, like from school or other garden blogs. But I just print them out, and there's a task list of things that I might want to do in the garden, and I find that helpful because some of these lists are really specific to the fruit trees that I have growing or the perennials that I have in my garden, rather than a really super general task list that the garden journal has. So that's something that helps me. I could just pull those sheets out at the beginning of the month and look over them and make a note of what I want to do this year, what I need to do, and when I'm going to get it done. The other thing that helps me stay organized in the garden is my personal Simply Sparkle chart. Now, this chart started as a way to keep organized with my in-house tasks, because as a 20-something-year-old, I was really overwhelmed with how to maintain a family, a career, and keep my house in order. So it is Sunday through Saturday, and there are tasks that I do every day, or my husband does every day, to keep things running smoothly in the home. But then I added what to do in the garden. So for ease and convenience, I did everything by the first letter of the week. So on Sunday, I sow and store in the garden, which means I either put out new vegetable seeds, I plant trees. I mean, I do that all week long, but if I haven't gotten to it and I know that there's something that needs to be planted, I know that on Sunday, that day is dedicated to that. I can go out there and do that planting. And then in the fall, I'm not planting so much, but I am harvesting. So it says store because I also do canning and, harvest. If you're harvesting your vegetables or your herbs, you're probably going to use some sort of storage method, whether it's like just getting them in the cellar or getting them in the cans, or, So Sunday, I often do my canning in the late summer, early fall. Monday is mow and mulch, and that ensures that every week I'm out there checking to see if I need to mow and if there's anything that I need to mulch, and it gives me a day dedicated to that. Tuesday is trim and treat, which means I either deadhead my annuals and perennials, or I'm out there actually trimming or pruning my hardy shrubs and evergreens. And then treating for disease and pests, and well, that's kind of it. And then Wednesday is water and weeds. So if there's anything specific that I need to make sure that I'm watering by hand, I'm out there on Wednesday to make sure that it all gets hand watered. And weeding, well, that's ongoing, right? So if I'm out there checking for mulch, I'm also looking in the mulched areas for weeds, and I pull the weeds then. I mean, it's not a foolproof system, but if I need to dedicate some serious time to weeding, I'll do it on Wednesday. On Thursday is a thorough clean. So if I've left piles of debris somewhere, if I've left pots out that have been emptied, if I need to really weed out a patch, just all those types of things. Put out the new bird seed if that's needed, or maybe clean the bird houses, blowing. Yeah, so I just make sure that everything's like good and cleaned and picked up and looking nice on Thursdays. And then on Friday, I fertilize and frame. So if there's anything that needs to be staked up, I make sure that I do that on Fridays. I get all my supplies out, twine or Velcro holder things, stakes, whatever I need for staking up. And then fertilizing in the summertime, I'm fertilizing every Friday. And then on Saturday is my day of stillness, of seeking out spirit. And there are plenty of times I'm in the garden because I find stillness in the garden. I find that peace, and I'm able to let go and kind of zen out in the garden. So I'm definitely in the garden on Saturday without any specific agenda. And that works for me because it helps me connect to nature, it helps me connect to spirit, and it allows me the freedom to not be chained to any specific task every single day. So that's how I stay organized on paper and in, action. So let me talk to you about a few little organization tools that I use that's not paper. One of the things that I do is I label only collections of plants. And that's because I have hundreds of plants on my property. There's no way I can label all the plants. And, I'm not a nursery. This is my personal garden. I do have tours come through my garden from time to time, not open to the public, but private tours. And it's fun to have some labels out there for people to say, oh, what is this interesting thing? But mostly I'm walking through the garden with everyone, so I can tell them what it is. And I'm not selling anything, so nobody's saying, what is this? I want to buy it. So I only label collections of things for my own personal use. So we have something like 20 hostas and 20 dahlias and maybe like 10 lilies. Trying to think of what else, other collections that I have. I think that's kind of it as far as like big collections. We have a lot of rhododendrons, but they're old and established and I know what they are. So I just use a label maker. I don't have it with me right here, but they use these little tapes. They're laminated, and I just use white because you could see it really easily. And I make little labels that look like this. And I put the name of the plant, the variety name of the plant, where I purchased it, what their main colors are, what their growth habit is, when I planted it, and when I divided it. This gives me an idea of how old it is and if it's going to be time to divide them again soon. And when they're not there, I do my hostas and dahlias mostly because they're not even there like half the year. And it's like, do we already have one of those? Do we have something that looks like that? And I can look at the tag and ensure that I'm not doing repeats. I have not found a foolproof labeling system yet. This is the first year I've done this laminated system. I've used Sharpies, I've used garden pens, I've used paint pens, I've used wooden stakes with burning tools. I don't even know all the systems, but by the end of the season, I can't read any of the labels because mostly I overhead water. That's changing in a lot of areas, so we'll see if that helps. But I also have a lot of rain, even in the summertime, that just wash off those labels. So my goal with these labels is I'm going to pull them up at the end of the year and keep them, bound in there. Like, these are all the hostas. I've put out all my dahlias already. But what I'm going to do this year, and this is new, is I've created these little markers. So they're all going to be color coded. This one is green. This is a golf tee. So I just used my propagation station to stand up all the golf tees in because it's basically just sand. And I got my golf tees for free from the golf course, and actually my dad got them for me. And then I used a Gorilla Glue weatherproof a clear glue, put a dot of glue on all of them, and then I used, I guess they're marbles or glass gems. You'd find them at pretty much any big box store in those net bags. And I had a whole bunch of different colors, and I picked a few specific colors for however many dahlias I had, however many hostas I had, and however many lilies I had. My next batch will be for perennials and maybe a couple of other things in the garden. But yeah, it worked out really nicely, and it only took me like maybe 15 minutes to do total. And of course, I just let the glue dry overnight and put them in the garden. I used Gorilla Glue that's weatherproof in hopes to keep them outside all year long. Now I realize the wooden golf tees are probably going to rot out after a few years. We'll see how long they last. I'm going to put green marbles next to every one of my hostas so that when they're gone in the winter, I can see where I have hostas. And then I'm going to put a metallic blue next to all of my dahlias for the same purposes. And then I have a frosty blue for my lilies, and I don't have it here, but I'm going to be putting a different color on all of my perennials that disappear in the winter, so I can know where I have perennials. And then I have gladiolas. I have a lot of gladiolas that I'm also going to put some teas on, so I can clearly see where I have plants when it's wintertime, because I don't know how many times we don't know where our plants are anymore. It's like are they here or here, and which one is it? So that's kind of my system that I'm still implementing and honing and figuring out. The other thing that I have discovered that I absolutely adore is this system. So I put all of the plant tags for my annuals only. I'm not doing it for anything else, but you know, annuals go away. They live for one season and then you pull them and they go away, and it's hard to remember which annuals you had, where, and you know, what their growth was like and what their conditions were. So my plan is to always get these tags. Make sure that you buy annuals with your tags. And if you don't, if you're growing your own annuals, maybe you can like make your own tag. But it's really convenient for me that they're all on like a keychain. And what I do is I just, in Sharpie in the back, I say where I put this. So I put this one in the black and white garden. These ones are on the north gutter versus the south gutter. This one's on my back porch. I have one in hanging baskets. Then I have something different in one hanging basket versus the other one. So this one is the hanging basket by my front door, and the other one is on my front porch. It just differentiates for me to know which one is which. And these are on my rail baskets. And then I have a couple that I have dotted throughout the garden. So I just put all my coleus this year are black dragons. All of my snapdragons this year are snapshot mix dwarf snapdragons. So wherever I have snapdragons this year, I just know they're this variety. I have this dianthus on here, which is actually a perennial, but it's new to me this year, and it's in one of these baskets, so, or pots. So it's just helping me like keep tabs, and then I'll put it in my garden journal as well. But I put out so many annuals that it's just taking up so much space in my garden journals, and you know, I change them up all the time, so I don't want to have to, you know, hold on to those records necessarily. But what I will do, see, I put these little tags on there that say annuals 2022, and I could throw this whole thing and whatever more I gather throughout this growing season, and I'll just put it in a container or a Ziploc bag, and that way in the future when I'm like, oh, you know, I remember growing those black magic, is that what it's called? See, I don't even remember, I have to look. Black magic petunias somewhere one year, and I could go through and look and, oh yeah, that's right, that's where they were. So that's a really convenient thing. And then, you know, their tags tell you what they need and what their growth habit is, and you can check and see, did this really happen? Is this how they performed in my garden? Where I place them, and is that a good place to put them in the future? Some things like our super petunias and the lobelia, those are things that we use pretty much every year in our garden. So it's kind of nice to know, did that brand work for us? How well did it perform? Did that particular color do well in our garden? Or that variety do well in our garden? So this is a really fun, easy way. You just put a hole punch in your tag, put it on a keychain, and you don't have to write anything down. The other thing that I do to keep track of what seeds to sow is I have jars. Like, they don't all look like this. Some of them are mason jars. So whatever I have that's available that I'm not using for canning, I put a label on them and it just says the month. And then I put all the seeds in here that I need to sow for that month. This is March, and it's inside because I actually used all of my March seeds except for one, and they need to be replenished. This helps me look at my inventory quick and easy, like, oh, there's not much in there, what needs to be replaced, and I could order those and make sure that I have them for next season. These jars all stay in my extra refrigerator in the garage because a lot of seeds need to be cold stratified. The ones that don't need to be cold stratified don't care. So they're just all together in their monthly jars, and I could just grab the jar and bring it inside, look through the seeds, and determine which ones I actually want to use that year. And they're all there for me. I'll look at them again in the fall when it's like really time to ramp up the seed orders and make sure I have a full inventory. But like, I know that there's some in here that really need to be replaced, so I could just do that now. The last thing that I wanted to share today on organization is these little containers. I should have brought two. They stack on top of each other and they create like a little pocket right here, right? And I keep my bulbs that need to be cold between plantings in here. So tulips, amaryllis are the main ones. But if I had to dig up any daffodils, which I did this year, to transplant and put somewhere else in the fall, I have a bin full of daffodils. Again, with the label maker. And this one's inside because it's time for me. My amaryllises have finally, like, all their leaves are pretty much done, and it's time for me to pull them out of the soil and put them in their container, and I put those in that extra refrigerator that we have in the garage as well. Two other things that I want to mention that I don't have good examples right here, but I will show you videos of how I utilize and implement these techniques. But one of those techniques is to cut out all the pictures of flowers that I have. It works best with flowers. You could go extreme and do it with like every plant that you want and make a collage, or do like a big poster board with all the plants that you want in your new flower bed or an existing flower bed. That's obviously an option. But when I'm designing a new area, I like to cut out the flower, the color of the flower, and sort of group them together in different ways and see what's most aesthetically pleasing and what's going to work the best for my garden. Sometimes I have to, think about staking and how that's going to look in the garden, or if that's even possible in that section of the garden. I recently did this with dahlias, and I shared it a little bit on the dahlia video, which I'll link below because there's a little bit more detail, but I will show you a couple of those ideas in this video as well, just to show you what I'm talking about.
First, I grouped them by color, and then I put them together in drifts that pleased my eye.
And then the other thing that I recently started doing, because I'm doing these theme gardens and I have bulbs planted all in the theme garden, and sometimes that theme garden will morph into another theme garden where I'm only adding another color. Sometimes the colors no longer work at all, or sometimes only some of the select colors aren't going to work for me. So this year I'm doing a black and white themed garden in my backyard, and when I planted last fall, some of the flowers that I planted ended up being black and white, meaning I also plant very, very dark red, very, very, very dark purple, so that they have that black flower effect. But some of them were like a light purple and some of them were pink. So I wanted to make sure that I removed those particular bulbs out of that garden this year, because next year it's going to be black, white, and red. And I didn't know how because I have them all mixed up, I wasn't sure how I could know what they were once they were done blooming, and you can't dig them up when they're blooming. I mean, what's the point of that? They're beautiful anyways. They didn't match my garden, but they're beautiful. And they have to photosynthesize, so they have to have that time in the garden to rejuvenate their bulbs before they're taken out of their soil to be stored for the winter or for the summer to be planted out in the fall. So I devised a system where I'm using bread tags. These things, you know, they come in all different colors and some of them are longer. Okay, so you can see this tulip here is kind of a light purple, and that is not the look that I'm going for. So I'm just gonna pop one of these. Oops, I do it with my right hand where I'm a little more coordinated, holding the camera. So I'm just gonna pop one of these around the stem. So then the foliage can die back. You can see that the flower is pretty close to done, but I have to wait for the foliage to die back before I can pull out the actual bulbs. So that's what I'm gonna do with this color and over here with this pink. I do not want the pinks in here next year. I only want these dark purple Queen of Nights and the whites. Just put these little tags around the stem of the flower that I wanted to remove and tuck them down into the foliage so that you can see the tags. I mean, maybe I'll eventually get enough green ones that I'll just like select all my bread by their green tags from now on, so that you really don't see them, because the red ones kind of stuck out, you know. But they come in all these different colors, and I just put little tags on them. If I was in a blend that there were multiple colors that I was going to pull, I would at least label one, like just write pink on there, just so I knew, like, these ones were the pink ones, the ones that were not labeled were the light purple ones, and I want to remove all of those. But for the most part, I did it like right after they bloomed, or right when they were blooming. It worked out really well. I was able to find them after the foliage started dying back and it was time to pull them up. It was really easy for me to find the bulbs that I wanted to take out of the garden with these little tags. They're probably useful in other ways too, so if you think of an innovative way to use these little bread tags, let me know. I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. So I think that's all I'm going to talk about for organization in the garden today. If you're interested in my Simply Sparkle chart, just let me know in the comments, and or you can DM me on Instagram and I can send you and I will email you that sparkle chart, because it also has a lot of really great tips for your indoor tasks as well, because I'm all about enjoying my life. I don't want to dedicate entire days to doing one task, and I like a clean home and I like a beautiful garden. So this way I just keep everything on track with just a couple of chores every day, inside and out, and we just keep running smoothly that way. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I talk organization and list making. Believe me, I could talk about this for hours, and but it doesn't even matter unless you implement those organization skills and get out into the garden and do what you love most, and that's be out there and enjoying your life to the fullest every day. Until the next time, make sure that you like and subscribe so you're notified every time that we post a new video. And please make sure you comment below and let me know what if anything, helped you in this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!